That was Alaska and Time to Kill from the first UK album on Polydor Records. UK is myself, Eddie Jobson on keyboards and violin, John Wetton on bass and vocals, Bill Bruford on drums, percussion, and Alan Holsworth on guitar. This is Eddie Jobson. I'd like to say that I do enjoy playing in America a lot. I've always felt that the kind of music that I've wanted to do and the kind of music that I enjoy listening to is very much appreciated over here, almost more so than in the homeland, because I think generally people don't totally appreciate what's coming out of their own territory. I think you need to sort of go across an ocean or something before you totally appreciate it. Another one of the reasons for forming this group for me was because I felt that there were a lot of people over here in America that wanted to hear the kind of music that I can produce. And when I was over here playing, living in Los Angeles with Zappa, I wasn't really sort of producing what I think my strengths are. So having realized that so many people wanted to hear it, I went over to England to co-form UK and to provide the thing that I think has made England well known on the music scene, this particular sort of brand of music, and bring it over to America where it would be appreciated. I started very, very young on my instruments when I was 7 years old on the piano, and I had a totally classical training up until the age of 16. I started the violin when I was 8, so it's the same thing really with the scales and arpeggios and examinations. And it wasn't until I was 16 that I really started to listen to other rock bands, and not really rock bands at that time, it was more sort of classical rock bands, and I saw a space for the violin in that because very, very few people were doing it at the time. And in an attempt to kill a year before going to the Royal Academy of Music in London to further my studies, I decided to give it a whirl, just for a year, but kind of got hold of me, and I sort of kept on because I realized that I could make a career out of it because there was such a demand for this new instrument, the electric violin, and as I said, so few people were doing it, whereas in the classical field there were just thousands of really good players, and the whole hierarchy structure of an orchestra is really just based on technique, so it's just a very, very dedicated procedure to go through the whole training of the technique and practicing and practicing and practicing. And then having done that, the best you can do is end up in the back row of an orchestra. So I just decided this wasn't really for me, and so I just got more and more involved in playing in rock groups. By this time I'd loosened up on my studies on the keyboards. I was learning to improvise, and I just gained so much more pleasure from sitting down and creating things and playing what I wanted to play and just express myself through the instrument rather than just having the dots put in front of me, the grapes as they say, and just reading them in a sort of robotic sort of fashion. Same with the violin, just life in a symphony orchestra seems to be a slightly robotic kind of a career. It just didn't appeal very much. It was much more fulfilling, to be able to do something, express yourself, play your music, whatever you want to do on that instrument. It's a much more creative thing to do, I think. The music that is at the moment being appreciated by the most people is probably In the Dead of Night, which is the opening track, and this is the one that gets most of the airplay. I think it's probably the most commercial track, if you'll excuse the expression. It's musically quite complex, but comes across as being fairly simplistic. It's also quite melodic, and I think this is its main appeal. So this is the opening track, and it is a suite, in fact, in 3 parts, but there also is available a 3-minute version that's been edited down from part 1, and this is the single version of that tune. It's called In the Dead of Night. This is Eddie Jobson of UK. I think creatively I get more satisfaction from playing the keyboards simply because there are more orchestrational possibilities, and you can get into harmony and chord structures, which you can't on the violin. It's a fairly limited instrument. It's just a single note instrument. Can only really be used for melodies or solos. On stage, it's often more fun to play the violin because I can move around the stage and I have the freedom to move. And obviously, it's more fun to play a single note instrument with other people, whereas the keyboards, when I'm playing by myself, I can create a whole sound and the whole thing, the bass, the chords, and the melody. Generally, I enjoy playing the keyboards when I'm by myself, but on stage, it's more pleasurable to have that freedom, I think. This is Eddie Jobson of UK. Generally, I feel we've elected to go out there on the concert circuit and do shows, and so we want to present something that is a concert and is a show, not just simply go out on the stage in day clothes and sit down on stools and reproduce the music on the album. It is very much a show, and hopefully in the future, when finances permit and when stage size permits, we can really sort of make it more of an extravaganza of sorts, something that people will remember, and something that I think will just enhance the music, nothing that's going to distract from it, so people will go away and think, wow, weren't the fireworks fantastic? But something that they'll go, wow, wasn't the music fantastic? When that light exploded on the guitarist at that moment, So this is something that I feel is important to get into. Again, it's kind of like that compromise you make, because I want the music to be appreciated by as many people as possible.